Good evening, Rishabh. Okay, so just wait for 2 minutes, then we'll start. Or just I'll give you the recap. So in the last class, we have discussed about how the entire banking system all over the world evolved over the time. Right? Since the Industrial Revolution, the advent of banknotes, and that advent of banknotes have paved the way for establishment and functioning of a central bank as a monetary authority. Okay, though there are the certain circumstances when the central bank was formed, but initially when it was formed, they do not have a role of managing the banknotes. Right? For example, in France. So in France, when that system was started, the system of what? The system of central bank. The main purpose of that central bank was not to just not to manage the monetary authority, right, monetary system, but it was a role of managing the inflation and other thing in the system, right? The so-called the price rise. For that purpose, they have introduced the central bank in their country. Whereas in the US, okay, in the US, the reason for introducing a central bank was not just to control the flow of paper currency, but we need a authority which can work as a lender of the last resort, right? What is the lender of last resort? We will discuss in the RBI's function, right? So there are the different circumstances, but once you will see overall, you will find that the main purpose of the central bank over the year become what? To manage the money and circulation of the money and control the inflation and manage the growth rate, right? Today, RBI is like what? RBI is like a inflation targeting central bank. So how it is inflation targeting central bank? What other things are there? I'll discuss. Okay. Good evening, sir. When EIC wanted to issue a banknote in India, why they didn't go with the existing British currency with the help of British Reserve? Is it because they wanted? Yes, obviously. Or because Indian leaders? No, see, they do not want to introduce the pound in India. Very simple. They do not want to introduce the pound in India because if the pound is going to be introduced in India, they have to make it at par with the British pound. Right? So this is the simple reason, and they are here to exploit. So if they are going to introduce their same currency, they have to make it at par with what? British currency. Fine. So this is why they have not introduced. Even wherever they went, apart from India, where they went to Australia, there is Australian dollar. So they never introduced, means where they have settled. In fact, in Australia and India, both are under the rule of British Empire. Fine. In Australia, they went for the permanent settlement. They settled there. Even they settled there, even then they have not introduced pound as a currency when they have settled there. So this is not possible for India. Here they came for the purpose of doing the business and maximum exploitation. So here they are for the exploitation. There is no meaning to introduce their own currency here. What currency they are using in their country. Because once you will introduce your currency, like India, if India is going to issue, means like we have very close relationship with Nepal, right? So suppose that ki Nepal is going to request to the government of India ki we want be under the Indian Union, like Sikkim did. So it was under the Changyal dynasty, right? So Sikkim was under the Changyal dynasty, and then it was being a part of Indian Union, and then Indian rupee was properly issued. But if today, if Nepal is going to say that ki okay, we want your currency as a Nepali currency, then India have to make sure that ki the Indian rupee must be at par in India. Same value of that Indian rupee should be at Nepal also, right? Otherwise, there is no meaning to introduce the Indian rupee there. Okay, so that was the reason. Now, so in the last class, what we did, we have seen that what the British government, They introduce what? They introduce Paper Currency Act 1861. Through this Paper Currency Act, they have make it sure that now all these notes, bank notes, right, ultimately who will issue? That will be issued by Ministry of Finance to the Government of India, British Government of India. They are going to manage and control. When they did that, some people in Britain, they said that it is not appropriate. Government should not control the circulation and management of the currency. That should be taken by a central bank. Some people said that in the British Parliament that legislation was discussed, and some of the lords means the part of British Parliament, they said that no, it is not necessary. It is better to introduce proper central bank in India. But the counter argument was given that introducing a central bank is going to like introducing very powerful bank, and government must be the ultimate authority rather than any other financial institutions like central bank, because we are there for doing the business, right? So this is why it is not required to have a very powerful central bank, right? Because central bank is going to control the monetary things. Fine. So the idea was that central bank is a kind of institution which need independence in order to perform their functions properly. So if you are going to establish a central bank in 1860s in India, then that central bank is going to have some sort of what? Autonomy. You want an institution in India which can serve what the day government is saying, right? You are not concerned with the Indian economy. You are concerned with the serving the British interest in India. That's it. So this is why there is no need to establish a powerful central bank. What the term power means? Power means here central bank have their independence and they can perform certain action without getting influenced by the government, right? So the counter argument, they said that no, we need some kind of central bank for India because we are there in order to do the business and maximize our profit. So this is why it is utterly not required. Though again in 1890, again the demand was there because British government have to focus on political administration rather than looking on the financial administration. It is better to establish a central bank. But again it is categorically rejected. It was rejected. Finally in 1911, I hope you heard this name, J.M. Keynes. J.M. Keynes, he was assigned to look over or suggest the British India government on the financial domain. He was a professor of economics in British University, and he was assigned to assist the government of India to help them in the financial matter. So he suggested that rather than going for a central bank, no need to go for a central bank, it is better to establish what? State bank. State bank. What state bank means here? A bank which can function under the British government. So what functions are performed by the British government managing the currency and other things, that should be performed by a state bank, right? So but again British who are managing that affairs, the management of currency, they are not very pleased with that. But the question is why Keynes was introduced to look over the financial system in India at that point of time. Actually, in the last class when we was discussing about the flow of development of banking in India, so Allahabad Bank, then Punjab National Bank, then Central Bank of India in 1911. So in India, banks are rising with very fast pace, right? And because of the freedom struggle movement is going everywhere in India, local people in India, they are preferring Indian banks, local banks over whom? Over these banks. Which banks? All these banks which are being introduced by the British, they are being overlooked. And which bank? the bank which is established by the Indians, they are getting the preference in terms of business. So British bank, they are lagging in terms of business. So this is why the government and all these people, they are thinking that there must be a kind of what? There must be a kind of a bank which is having more dominant power. Like there was a Allahabad bank, right? There was a PNB. There was a Central Bank of India. Like there are other banks also. Whereas at the same time there was a Bank of Bengal, Bank of Bengal, Bank of Bombay, Bank of Madras. So these presidency banks were also there, right? So these presidency banks were also there, and these presidency banks, right? These presidency banks are competing with whom? These Indian banks. So what is happening in Indian system? These Indian banks, they are able to surpass the business of the British bank. This is what a kind of a concern for whom? This is a kind of concern for British government. That is why they seek a opinion or advice. Just a minute, huh? They need a kind of advice from whom? An expert. So this is why J.M. Keynes suggested that let's establish a bank in India, and that bank should be the biggest bank, but that should not have an autonomy like central bank. So government can manage the currency circulation and all, but there must be a big bank which is going to function under the government. So that is why he suggested what? He suggested a state bank. So the term the state bank, right, the State Bank of India today, right, the State Bank of India today, even the Pakistani Central Bank, still it is known as State Bank of Pakistan. So for colonial world like African countries, some African countries and Asian countries, their central bank is still known as what? State Bank. Fine. So that idea was rejected in the Indian context, but later on some African countries have followed that model and they established their central bank as State Bank. Fine. And again for Pakistan, that central bank is known as what? State Bank of Pakistan is their central bank. Understood. So Keynes has given his idea, but his idea was formally rejected by British India government. They said that no, we do not need any such kind of a thing. But in 1913, Cooperative Act was passed by the British government, and this Cooperative Act allowed cooperative banking in India. So even at very small level, urban level, and at big urban cities like Bombay, Calcutta, Delhi, so because of the availability of Cooperative Act, even at the very small level, now the banking is under complete grip of whom? Indians. So this is why now the British government is getting what? More anxiety कि we need something which can control. Achha, one thing. Another thing, what happened? The war started in 1914. War started in 1914, the First World War. So under that First World War, from 1914 to 18, British India government, British India government, they have to support the war effort of the Britain. So they have to provide all kind of the resources, each and everything. So they was assigned to provide more and more financial assistance, logistic assistance. Even Indian soldiers, they went to the different part of the world and they fight on the behalf of British government. The memorial, the India Gate War Memorial was created for those soldiers only, right? So that happened. And in this phase, British India government was not able to manage financial things as per the wishes of the British government, right? They again said that if you are not able to do it, let us know, we will try to find a solution. But again British India government said that no, we are very comfortable, and because of the war some mismanagement were there, but we are able to do this. let us allow, we can continue. So during this war phase, many times British government in the Britain, they communicated to the Indian government, but they said that no, we will manage. But after the war, when the British government went for all those things, then they realized what is happening. British India government is managing what? British India government is managing currency management. Right? They are also managing what? Government debt. At the same time, they are also regulating banks. They are also regulating what? Banks. Fine. So it was considered that all these three roles need not to be performed by whom? The British government. It must be performed by a particular other authority. Right. Again, British India government protested कि no, we are able to handle. But this time, the British government in the Britain, they are very firm कि no. All these functions, those who are not able to understand how the government debt works, no need to worry. We will discuss. But as of right now, just take this thing. The government in India was managing all these things. But British government in the Britain, they said that it is not required, you should maintain all these things. So it is better, we must have another organization. With this thing in their mind, what they did in 1921. In 1921, they merged all three presidency banks, Bank of Bengal, Bank of Bombay and Bank of Madras. They merged and they created what? They created Imperial Bank of India. They created what? They created an Imperial Bank of India. And this Imperial Bank of India got these two things to manage. So what Imperial Bank of India have to do? This Imperial Bank of India is going to function as a first commercial bank. It is going to function as what? It is going to function as a commercial bank. That means this bank can transact with public, right? They can transact with the public, depositing and lending. But at the same time, this bank also going to have a power of what? Regulation of banking in India. This power was also given to whom? This power was also given to Imperial Bank. Though it is a conflict of interest. Conflict of interest means what? I am going to set the paper and I am also going to appear in the exam. I will set the paper, but at the same time I am also going to appear in the exam. Right? And I am also going to evaluate the copies. So I am going to prepare the paper for you and I am going to compete with you and finally I am going to evaluate the copy. Right? So this was a conflict of interest, but at that point of time democracy was not there and there was no, means if you will see that entire phase, people are not, even today people are not concerned with what is happening in the economy. Why central bank is doing this thing, what is happening. When RBI law was amended in 2016 and it was said that now RBI is going to be inflation targeting bank, right? There was no public debate in the domain, right? Even after the demonetization, lot of noise was created, but no logical debate is started. Politicians try to make it as a political issue rather than economical issue. So the demonetization was completely discussed from the point of view of what? From the point of view of political aspect rather than economic aspect. Same in the case of the GST. So more politics rather than the economic aspect. So if the country having such kind of the people even today, so you can imagine even means 100 years back, the kind of conflict of interest, such kind of a thing is not going to be discussed in the public domain. So this is why despite some protest by some Indians, but still Imperial Bank of India got this power of what? Function as a commercial bank, regulating the banking system in India, plus managing government debt. Managing government debt, just a glimpse कि if government need to borrow, if government has a need to borrow money, then government is going to borrow from whom? Government is going to borrow from this bank, Imperial Bank of India. So if government need a money for its requirement, that money is going to be borrowed by whom? That money is going to be borrowed by this bank. Which bank? Imperial Bank of India. But still, the power of currency management was rest with whom? British government. So British government is going to manage the currency, but these functions will be performed by whom? Imperial Bank of India. That was settled. Right, that was settled in 1921. But from 1924 onwards, US economy went into the crisis, and that crisis has created a spiral effect all over the world. Spiral effect, especially the US economy was closely linked with what? Closely associated or closely linked with European economies, and especially which? UK. Fine. So by this time, 1924, US was one of the biggest economy. Like today, China, na? How the China is very dominant. So at that point of time, British economy was the biggest economy. But US was almost there to match the British economy or even able to surpass. Fine. So that is the impact of the US economy. And if any big economy is going to have a problem, then that problem is going to be the part of other economies also. So what problem started in the US economy that started showing the impact in British economy also? And because the British economy is in the problem, they need some assistance from all over the colonies, including India. Right? And this time, rather than providing a help, the height of mismanagement was like that. Means, just giving you a scenario. Right now, $1 is equal to somewhere around 82 rupees. Right? $1 is equal to somewhere around 82 rupees. Now, suppose something is going to happen and it is going to make $1 is equal to 7 rupees. It is going to happen to what? $1 is equal to 7 rupees. So if the $1 is going to happen 7 rupees. Okay. So earlier, suppose you want to purchase an iPhone, right? So that iPhone somewhere costing around suppose that 82,000, right? So 82,000 it is costing, suppose it is costing somewhere around what? Somewhere 82,000. That means effectively you need how much dollar? Tell me. How much dollar is required? $1,000. $1,000 is required. Okay, so you are going to pay $1,000 to whom? Apple Inc. Fine. So Apple is going to receive a revenue of how much? Apple is going to receive a revenue of $1,000. But suppose all of a sudden equation is going to change to this. $1 is equal to 7 rupee, or suppose $1 is equal to 8.2 rupees. $1 is going to be what? $1 is going to be 8.2 rupees. Then how much dollar you need to make the payment? Yes. Dollar, how much dollar you need to pay? If $1, earlier $1 was 82 rupees and the price of iPhone is 82,000, right? Now if the $1 is equal to 80, from 82 it is going to become how much? 8.2. Then how much dollar you need to pay? $10,000? How it is going to be $10,000? अरे iPhone is going to cost you how much? अच्छा ऐसे देख लो, iPhone is going to cost you $1,000. Okay, iPhone is going to cost you $1,000, and in that case you have to pay how much? You have to pay 82,000 rupees in order to purchase that iPhone. Why? Because $1 is equal to how much? 82. So you are going to give 82,000 rupees and you are going to get how much? $1,000. And you have to pay $1,000 in order to get that iPhone in your pocket. Now what happened? $1 is equal to what? 8.2 rupees. Then with this equation you need how much? You need to pay how much dollar? $1,000 you have to pay to get that iPhone 14. To get that iPhone 14 you have to pay how much? You have to pay $1,000. But now the equation is $1 is equal to 8.2 rupee. Then how much you have to pay? How much Indian rupee you have to pay now to get $1,000? Arey Vikul, $1. I am giving you this equation. $1, earlier $1 was 82 rupees. Arey तुम लोग भी भाई. iPhone 14, right? iPhone 14 cost is $1,000. Okay. Earlier $1 was equal to what? 82 rupees. Earlier it was 82 rupees. So in order to purchase this iPhone, you have to pay how much? You have to go with 82,000 rupees. Give that 82,000 rupees and you will get how much? $1,000. You will get the $1,000 and you can purchase what? iPhone. But right now what happened? Equation changed. $1 is going to be equal to how much? 8.2 rupees only. So earlier you have to pay how much? Earlier you have to pay how much? 82,000. Now you have to pay how much? 8,200. 8,200 you have to pay to get how much? $1,000. So earlier $1,000 was equal to 82,000 rupees. Now $1,000 is equal to 8,200 rupees. So whose value increased? Rupees value increased and the value of dollar is what? Decreased. That means any US made good which was costly earlier, it is going to be what? Very cheap, and we can purchase it easily. That means who is going to have a loss? US is going to have a huge loss because earlier they are able to make profits. Now the price of their product is going to be what? Their prices remain same, $1,000. But for that $1,000, earlier they was getting how many rupees? 82,000 rupees. Now they are getting how much? 8,200 rupees. So the value of their currency decreased. That means the profit they are going to make in terms of Indian rupee, earlier they are getting how much? 82,000. Now they are getting how much? 8,200. So their profit in terms of Indian rupee got what? Decreased. So this was happened in 1925. This was happened in 1925 when the pound, the value of pound with respect to what? Indian rupee starts decreasing. The value of pound with respect to Indian rupee starts decreasing. And this is why, for you can see, is Bombay, Ahmedabad, Surat, all these are the industrialized areas, especially in terms of cotton industry and all, highly industrialized. And you know, at what time did that rapid development happen? That was a phase, 1925 onwards. For next 4 or 5 years, the Indian businessmen who are always having a dream to purchase a very good machines which are available in the Britain, but they are having huge cost. The cost is very high, the price is very high, and they are not able to purchase. But the value of British pound decrease, and they are able to purchase. And they started establishing their factories in the different part of Bombay region, Ahmedabad and Surat and all. But who is having the huge loss? It was whom? It was UK. And they are pushing government of India, manage it, and government was complete fail. Government was not able to manage at all. Then British government finally decided that ki no, we have to find out some authority which should be solo responsible for currency management. Right? Which should be solo responsible for what? Currency management. Abhi, see, appreciation, depreciation. Abhi, whatever I have explained, is it clear or not? What I have explained, is it clear or not? Achha. So I told you in 1921 some problem started in US economy, and that problem has impacted the British economy, the UK's economy, and that is why the value of pound, British pound, started decreasing in comparison to what? Indian rupee. Right? Now, one more dimension I am going to add here. Means actually why this happened. Why this happened? I'll tell you the reason in brief, because we are going to discuss that issue in detail in the chapter of balance of payment. But for as of right now, for your understanding, I am going to let you know, since when I have started this discussion about the banknote and other thing, what I told you. I was telling you every time that these banknotes were issued again what? Gold. They were issued against what? Gold. Right? So, all over the world, they were issued in terms of what? Gold. Right? And it is known as gold reserve system. Right? It is known as gold reserve system. Okay. But when Britishers have established the system of banknotes in India, what they did, the rupee banknote was issued against silver. It was issued against silver. Even in 1911, when J.M. Keynes suggested State Bank of India or State Bank for India, British India, he suggested to switch from where? Silver to gold in order to issue what? Indian currency. But British government in India and UK both disagreed. No. It must be issued on the basis of silver. Reason was very simple. If it is issued against the silver, silver is an inferior metal in comparison to gold in terms of its value, monetary value. So automatically the value of Indian rupee is going to be very less in comparison to gold, or in other words, the value of the silver or in the value of Indian rupee is going to be very less in comparison to what? In comparison to gold. So this was the reason. But when in 1921, British means UK started facing a problem, US started facing a problem, right? So in order to resolve that issue, they started selling their gold. Rather than using the currency, rather than using the US dollar, they started using the gold. And you know, the problem with the gold is what? The problem with the gold is, if it is too much in the market, its value is going to what? Decrease. Its value is going to be what? Decrease. For example, right now the price of gold is decreasing. Why? Generally, people feel that ki invest in that, right? If I want to invest, so if I want to invest, what should be my approach? I should invest in some asset whose value must be going to what? Increase. If I am seeking what? If I am seeking for an investment, I want to invest, right? So I want to invest somewhere where I can get higher returns, but it should be safe also. So in general, people all over the world, they prefer to invest in either dollar or they prefer to invest in what? Gold, right? So when US Federal Reserve, the central bank of US Federal Reserve said that we are going to increase interest rate on bond issued in dollar. As of right now, bond means a paper instrument for debt. Means if you want to borrow the money, the instrument is known as bond. So US Federal Reserve is saying that the interest what we are paying in order to borrow, the interest which we are paying in order to borrow from the market, that interest rate we are going to what? Increase. That means if you will purchase any bond issued by US Federal Reserve, you can earn more interest, right? So this is why those people who have invested in the gold, they saw that now the dollar investment is going to be more attractive. So let's sell that gold and invest in what? US dollar. So many people started selling the gold, and because of that reason, what happened? Right now, the value of gold is slightly decreasing in comparison to what? In comparison to what? In comparison to what? Tell me. Answer. Silver. So, like right now what is happening? The value of dollar is what? People are heading towards more and more investment in what? More and more investment in dollar. Right? More and more investment in dollar, and they are giving up their what? Gold. And that is why the value of gold is what? The value of gold is decreasing in comparison to US dollar at present. Okay. Now back to 1925. Back to 1925. In 1925, dollar at international level was not easily available as it is easily available right now for the investment. I am repeating my statement. Earlier, in 1925, dollar was not available as an instrument of investment as it is available today for the investment. Right? So, if the value of gold is going to decrease in 1925 and people do not have an investment instrument of what? Investment instrument of what? Dollar. So if the value of gold is going to decrease, then in order to protect their investment, what they will do? They start selling the gold and they'll start purchasing what? Silver. So that trend is all over the world. The value of gold starts decreasing and the value of silver starts increasing. And as much as more people are going to demand, see what happened during the, suppose that after 6 days there is a Navaratri. Okay. So today, from today onwards, the price of fruits and all these things people consume during the what? During the fasting of that 9 days, the price of fruits and the other items which are being used during the fasting at 9 days, the price is going to rise day by day. And as many as people are going to start purchasing, price is going to what? Higher, higher, higher and higher. right? And suppose tomorrow it is going to start, fasting is going to start, then the price of fruits are at very higher level, and the price of chicken and mutton is going to slightly decrease in the wholesale market. Why? The demand is supposed to what? Decrease. Fine. But once the Navratri is over, then again the price of chicken and mutton is going to what? Slightly increase, as it was back to the same price after 10 days, right? So it's a game of demand and supply. So the demand of gold start decreasing and people start purchasing the silver, so price of silver starts increasing and the price of gold starts decreasing. And this was the reason why during that phase of 1923, 1924 and at the height of 1925, the price of pound with respect to what? Indian rupee starts decreasing. And that was a cause of concern. That was a cause of concern. Just give me a second, huh? Just give me a second. Okay. So that was a cause of a concern, and British government is saying to Indian government ki, please do something, solve this problem, do something, solve this problem. And British India government was trying to do that, right? Trying to do that, but they are not capable of it, right? They are not capable of it. Fine. So like it's like okay, you have maybe have the best car in the world, but if you are not an efficient driver, right, it is very difficult for you to handle that speed and each and everything. Like in the Formula 1 race, right? So Formula 1 race or MotoGP, all these motorsports, driver is equally important as the vehicle. Maybe vehicle is superior, right? But it is ultimate what? The driver who is driving that car, right? Like the Top Gun Maverick Part 2. It's a pilot rather than what? Aircraft. But no, I mean that was over exaggeration by these people, right? It is not possible Tomcat versus Su-57, but still the pilot matters. Pilot matters. And again, as an example, what Abhinandan did, right? He shoot down a generation higher aircraft, right? A generation higher aircraft because the skilled pilot, fine. So similarly, British India government, maybe they are having the resources. They have all those resources, but they do not have a skill. A skill which must be possessed by the government, but government, because government is involved in many things, and the currency management is a specific kind of the function. So they cannot, but they are like, no, we will manage, we will manage, we will manage. And ultimately, when the worst problem came, they failed to manage. Right. Anyhow, US economy start recovering from 1929 onwards. At 1929, they are at their lowest trend. That is why, even if you have heard this term, the Great Depression, 1929. So the Great Depression, the US economy at lowest point in 1929, however, from 1930 onwards, they start recovering. And that US economy start recovering, other economies also start recovering, and British pound, which lost its value, lot of value against the Indian rupee, that British pound again start recovering. But government was not happy with this. British government was not happy with this. They are like ki, if problem can come once, that same problem can come again and again. And if you are not able to manage again, then we think that you are not able to manage again, because it's a skilled work which must be performed by the skilled agency which is being created for that dedicated purpose only. Right. But still there was a debate ki no, give them another chance, they will able to manage. So finally British government said that okay, fine, we are going to establish a commission, and that commission is going to do what? Inquire ki whether India do need a central bank or not. And that is why they sent what? Hilton Young Commission. In other words, or you can say that Royal Commission on Currency and Finance. So they sent Royal Commission on Currency and Finance, or the Hilton and Young Commission. Yes, Jairaj. Pound was issued against gold, right? So see, I'll tell you one thing. Last year I have discussed in detail, right? Then what happened when I just explained you gold and silver. You know what happened? If you will go back to the previous year's lecture, I have explained here itself, I have explained entire system of how the currency, means how the value of rupee and pound or dollar is valued, means how the value of dollar is going to be decided against Indian rupee, how the Indian rupee is going to be valued against the pound. I explained each and everything, right? Then what happened? Actually, when I started the balance of payment chapter, after explaining all these things, when I started balance of payment chapter almost after 1 month, then most of the people, they are not able to recall, and they are saying that, sir, please explain again, please explain again. So this is why this time I explained only what it is required to understand RBI, and the currency function, how the value of money is going to be decided, we will discuss properly in what? The chapter of balance of payment. And I am going to, I have explained each and everything in the detailed manner here. You can see that Hilton Indian Commission, all these facts you can find in any book. But how that happened, right? How these things happen, you will not find all these explanations. Fine. So I have explained. So I'll also explain the currency system, how in the past, what was the gold reserve system, right? Then the minimum reserve system. So standard gold system. So 3 systems were there. I'll explain in detail. So no need to worry. Okay, Jaraj. So Royal Commission on Currency and Finance came to India, and that commission said that, see, it is utter nonsense कि government is unnecessary jumping in that domain where they should not be there. Currency management is a dedicated function of a central bank, and that is why India also needs a central bank. There is no need to establish what? There is no need to give this function to who? Government. And British government has accepted the findings of Royal Commission on Currency and Finance, and they directed British India government what? They directed British India government to initiate the process to establish a central bank in India. But one more important thing I'll want to let you know here is what Commission said that. Commission said that we want minimum interference of government in the functioning of central bank. Okay, we want minimum interference of the government in the functioning of central bank. Then that means that central bank should not be ownership of government only, right? Because it's a very important institution, right? It is going to manage the currency. So by the virtue of managing the currency, you are managing the country's entire financial system. So you must be under the control of whom? Government. And again, if you are going to be under the control of government, then government is going to dictate and manipulate each and everything. Then how the central bank is going to be autonomous? Again, it will be highly influenced in their whom? Government. And government is going to dictate. So that is why the central bank, which is going to be established in India, it should not be under the government. Then who is going to have an ownership? If government is not going to have an ownership, then who is going to have an ownership? So it was decided that let's have a joint ownership. Government of India, that Imperial Bank, I mentioned you the Imperial Bank now. So GOI, Government of India, Government of India, then Imperial Bank. Apart from Imperial Bank, prominent commercial banks. Prominent commercial banks, they also have their what? Shareholding. What means prominent? Means in terms of volume of business. What is the volume of business? Means like not any Tom, Dick, Harry bank is going to have an ownership in this bank which is going to be established in India, but those banks who have the big business and in terms of volume of business, they are also going to get what? The ownership in the bank. But in order to get the ownership in the bank, you have to pay for it. Means you can purchase the share of the bank, and against the purchase of that share, you can get the ownership in the bank. Once the banks are going to have an ownership, Imperial Bank is going to have an ownership, government is also going to be an ownership, then decision is going to be not taken on the basis of the monopoly of the government. All the decisions are going to be taken by board of directors, right? And there will be what? Governor, right? But the decision makings are going to happen with the board. So if there is any kind of difference of opinion, like government is going to say that you do A, whereas Imperial Bank is going to say no, don't take the A policy, go for policy B. Prominent banks are saying that no, neither A nor B, go for the policy policy. This policy is not good, this policy must be taken, this policy must be taken. If that thing is going to happen, then there will be what? Voting in the board of directors, and the decision is going to be taken with the majority, right? But that majority is not like simple majority. That majority is going to be based on your ownership. Like if you have 40% ownership, there are total 10 members. Okay, so 10 owners are there, but as a single owner, you have 40% ownership and your friend have 20% ownership. So you two are going to overpower the decision of rest of 8, because every person do not have a value of 1 vote. Everyone can vote, 10 members are there and 10 people have the ownership. But out of that 10, 2, one have 40%, another have 20%. So effectively these two people have the ownership of 60% and their value of vote is going to be 60% over the 8 members vote value, that is going to be only 40%. So these two people can change the decision making. Classic example is World Bank and IMF. So in the World Bank, voting is going to happen in the same way. Right, weightage voting, we call it a weightage voting. Okay, clear? So they decided, okay, we are going to have an ownership kind of the system. That bank is going to be established in India, the central bank is going to be established in India, and that central bank is going to be a private ownership. And to make decision making more transparent, we are also going to create such kind of a system. And they started the bank with 50 crore reserves. That was a very huge amount of money, right? So in today's comparison, it's a huge amount, right? So that was a time when even a 1 rupee, like district magistrate was having the salary of 4 rupees. District magistrate do get the salary of 4 rupees. The district magistrate who get the salary somewhere around 1 lakh rupees today, he was having the salary of 4 rupees. Even not 4 rupees, somewhere around 2.5 rupees. The salary of, means I'm talking about 1930s, right? So you can imagine that how big amount it was. And this is why they compelled to make it the name of the bank rather than Central Bank of India or XYZ Bank of India. They called it as what? Reserve Bank of India. A bank started with huge reserve of how much? 50 crores. So bank was started with the huge reserve of what? 50 crores. That is why they named the bank as a Reserve Bank of India. Right. So Reserve Bank of India was established initially because RBI building was not ready in the Mumbai, so it was established in Kolkata. But after 2 years, in 1937, RBI was shifted from Kolkata to where? From Kolkata to Mumbai. Its headquarters, its present headquarters at Mumbai, right? And that road on which the office of RBI is. Can anybody tell me what is the name of that road? Anyone? Yes, Mint Road. Mint Road. Even sometimes newspaper use this term, Mint Road, Mint Street, or means in India they use the term road, Mint Road rather than the street, though you can use any one, right? Very good. So Mint Road, that means RBI. So RBI, in that way, the Reserve Bank of India was established. But one more thing was there, and when the debate was going on, ki what should be the structure of RBI, who is going to have an ownership. One more thing was there, ki in order to minimize the interference of the government, because see, government control the legislature, right? And government is the most powerful institution in any country. So, in order to make sure that the government should not unnecessarily interfere in the functioning of this Reserve Bank, that bank must be established by a law of parliament. Means government cannot do its whatever they like. If they want to make any change in the functioning of RBI, they must go to the parliament, change the law, only then they can do that thing. So this is why RBI was established through an act of parliament. It was established through an act of what? An act of parliament. Fine. So RBI was established and it starts functioning. Though, see, despite all these efforts, right? All these efforts, RBI was established and everyone was trying to minimize the control of whom? Minimize the control of government in the functioning of RBI. And RBI was established on 1st April 1935, right? And Sir Osborne Smith. Osborne Smith was the first governor of RBI. But you know what happened? In 1937, he finally resigned because of the differences with the government. So government has pressurized Osborne Smith to such extent, he said that enough is enough. भाड़ में गई तुम्हारी नौकरी. I am calling my day. जा रहा हूं मैं नौकरी छोड़कर. बहुत हुआ अत्याचार. अब बनेगी हमारी सरकार. Right? So he said that कि I am resigning from here. I am not going to work. Right? So he resigned because of the pressure of the government. They are well documented. Means I have read the conversation of what happened actually, why the first RBI governor was forced to resign. Government was manipulating. Means, see, it's your governor, white person, right? Appointed by you. But because he is doing as per the act, he is performing his duty as per the RBI Act, not as per the wishes of the government. Right? And government started trying to make a culprit. Wherever the mistake is happening, they are saying like, no, he is responsible. He is responsible. He is responsible. So he finally said that, okay, if I am responsible for everything, I am going to resign. Fine. So this thing happened. So you can understand how the government is going to influence the entire system. Original Raghuram Rajan? Original Raghuram Govindarajan have never resigned. He never resigned. He was very vocal, but he never resigned. Urjit Patel resigned. He resigned. Okay, Dash? Got the point? So, this tussle between the government and RBI was going on, right? Even Osborne Smith was resigned, then another person was appointed. Finally, an Indian was appointed as an RBI governor, first governor of RBI, first Indian governor of RBI. His name was C.D. Deshmukh. C.D. Deshmukh, grandfather of Ritesh Deshmukh. I'm not joking, he was the grandfather of Ritesh Deshmukh, and his son, his father of Ritesh Deshmukh, he was the Chief Minister of Maharashtra. And C.D. Deshmukh, he was appointed as a governor of RBI, right? And he played a key role for the establishment and autonomy of RBI. Fine, he was a person who played a key role in the establishment of the Reserve Bank of India when RBI was in discussion on the papers, like from 1928 onwards, from Hilton and Young Commission's day till then 1935, he always played a key role in the establishment of RBI. Finally, he was appointed as a governor of RBI. Still, he is the youngest, one of the youngest, means he is the youngest governor of RBI. He was the first Indian governor of RBI, and he served for a long time. No, though he is not longest serving governor of RBI, but youngest governor of RBI till that date he was. And after him, it was Raghuram Govindarajan. Right. So, he became the governor of RBI. In 1947, India got the independence. And when the India got independence in 1947, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru also, he became the Prime Minister of India, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. And he requested all banking fraternity and financial fraternity to play a very important role in the development of this country. And the same thing is conveyed to whom? Same thing is conveyed to the RBI also. And RBI was also very keen to do that work, right? But what government was saying that this private ownership system must be removed and RBI now should be under the complete control of the government. Why? Because in 1947, means after the independence, there is no conflict of interest of the government and the RBI. Why? The simple logic the government has given, earlier it was Britishers who was ruling the system. So they always want to extract from here and they want to take it their home country. So that is why there may be a direct conflict between the functioning of RBI, who is an Indian institution, and the government who is working here on the behest or the behalf of British government. So there is conflict. But right now, RBI is working for the India, government is also working for the India. So RBI must understand the need of the government, and this is why RBI must be nationalized. C.D. Deshmukh said that no, it is not required. RBI can do this work even being remain private. But government was not agreed. Then the negotiation started and C.D. Deshmukh said that okay, we can go for the nationalization, but make sure that whatever the autonomy of Reserve Bank of India, which is written in the Act of the Parliament, that should be remain there. Right. So C.D. Deshmukh played a very important role to make RBI an autonomous institution at the time of nationalization of RBI in 1949. Right. So this is why there is a tradition in the RBI. Right. There is a tradition in the RBI. Save the autonomy of the bank. If you are not able to do, leave the place. Give the message to the government that we are not going to bow down against you. We will prefer to resign. Right. So this high standard was established by C.D. Deshmukh in 1949. And you know what happened? When C.D. Deshmukh resigned, means his tenure was finally completed, not resigned, when his tenure was finally completed from the RBI and he later became the Finance Minister of India also, you know what happened? C.D. Deshmukh is the only person in the history who have his account, a personal account in the Reserve Bank of India. As a token of appreciation, you did a lot of things for us. So as an exception, as a token of appreciation, as an exceptional service for the central bank, we are going to open your individual account. RBI open account for government, of India, state government, another foreign government, maybe. So RBI do not deal directly with the public, especially the account kind of the thing. But he is the only person who was having an account in the central bank, RBI. Right. So this is why C.D. Deshmukh played a very important role, and he is an icon for the entire banking fraternity, especially in the RBI, and that high morale is still maintained by the various governors of RBI. Though there are certain instances where people think that, like for example, present governor, it is a criticism of the present governor that he is more tilted towards the government will and wishes, right? And this is not first time this kind of the charges are being put against the RBI governor over the years. But just telling you what happened in the past, what is happening, so you can develop more and more interest when you are going to read the news about the RBI and government's dialogue, right? Got it? So in that way, RBI nationalized, and RBI took the responsibility of what? Economic growth and development of India, and they started functioning hand in hand with the government of India in order to what? Facilitate Indian economy. Is still there is a differences between the government of India and RBI objective, and if there are, how are those conflicts solved? Because ultimately both RBI and government are going to be affected entire economy of India. See, what we see as a conflict, right? So the term conflict is for the common people, whereas the term for the organizational level, there is a difference of opinion, right? But those people who want to make it as a news so that they can sell their news, they can call it was conflict. And for effective decision making, okay, for any, even for the common people, कबीर दास जी ने बोला ना, निंदक नियरे राखिए. So निंदक नियरे राखिए. The person who is criticizing you, he is the best person to help you, right? So when the RBI is going to criticize or having the difference of opinion with the government of India, it is actually helping the government of India. When government is trying to pursue with their difference of opinion with respect to RBI, they want to make sure that the RBI, whatever is doing, that must be with what? With proper dialogue process. So we have a difference of opinion. What you are saying, I'm not agree with that, and what you are saying, I'm not agree with that. What I'm saying, you are not agree with that. But with my logic and explanation, I'm going to explain you, okay, this is the reason why I'm not agreed with you. Then you are also going to provide me the counter reasons, okay, this is the reason why I'm not agreeing with you. So in that process, maybe some final good solution is going to be there, right? So this is why it is very important to have a difference of opinion when you are going to take a decision for sensitive thing like economy, right? It is not required to have an yes man each and every time, yes sir. That's not required in the functioning of the central bank. And not only India, all over the world this tradition is there. Diamond of C.D. Deshmukh. अच्छा भाई, अभी clear? अच्छा. Now I am going to stop because I got the message from Ashok sir कि you have a management class, और भावना में मैं बह जाता हूँ, मुझे टाइमिंग का याद नहीं रहता. See, he is calling, just give me a second. I am going to stop right now. Okay. So from tomorrow onwards we will discuss the function of the RBI. Okay. अच्छा, ESI study material. Just give me a second. I'll show you. See, I'm working on this class notes number 1, right? Establishment of RBI, Central Board of RBI, functioning of RBI. I'm preparing all these things. So till then here it is completed. Rest of the thing I'm going to do tonight. Tomorrow I will share with you. Fine? So time to say good night. See you tomorrow at 8. Okay? Thank you.